I don't know why it stopped. God, where did it stop? Okay. So, anyways, all right. So we're gonna watch this video, and before we do watch this video, before we do, I want everyone to let me know if you believe what you're watching sounds like he's being coached into what he's saying. I really want your opinion. I really want you to listen to the choice of words, the accusations, and I want you to go back before you watch this and read this letter a couple of times. Keep in mind, this was less than 2 months before his mother passed away. Keep that in mind. But we're going to dive into this, and we're going to watch this video. And I'll do my reactions to it. I want to stop it right there. Why do you need to stop seeing your father? Why do you need to stop seeing me, Tristan? Why would you want to stop seeing your father? You see, we're not even a minute into it. There's 11 minutes left of it. We're not even a minute into it. And it's already hard for me to hear the words coming out of his mouth. But it gets worse. It gets a lot worse and hard to hear. But let's continue. Pity. Pity. Listen, let me be clear. I'm gonna say this to all the parents out there. Some of you might not care that your child hates you. Some of you might not be affected if your child hates you. And Tristan, this is a message to you also. But when you're older and you have kids, and I hope you do, and I hope the day comes when your child gets mad at you and says he hates you, I hope you'll see how hard it is to hear your child speak to you like that. Not only did I lose your mom, not only was I not only that, but I was forced to stay away from you. Every time I would see you every other weekend, I would ask your grandmother for additional time. I would ask your grandmother for an extra hour to take you for ice cream, to take you to a movie, to take you somewhere, just a little extra time. Maybe come see you in the middle of the week. Maybe pick you up after school and take you for ice cream. Or maybe pick you up after school and take you to the park. Maybe even just pick you up after school and take you home instead of you riding the bus. And every time I got told no. Every time I fought, went to court, tried to ask for additional time, I got told no. Your grandmother was absolutely refusing every advance of me trying to just spend additional time with you. So for you to go on your social media and tell everyone, for my son to go on social media and say that I'm begging for pity and I'm doing this, no. I'm holding on by dear life, trying to build, trying to repair, trying to live life, and you're my son. Tristan is my child. I never gave up on him. I never stopped begging for additional time. I never stopped working my ass off to make more money, to pay more child support, to pay this, pay that, pay this. And I begged for additional parenting time. It was not the courts that refused. It was your grandma. She wouldn't let me have you after school. She wouldn't let me come see you at her house in the middle of the week. She wouldn't let me take you out for ice cream in the middle of the week. I couldn't even call you in the middle of the week. My only allowance of talking and seeing my child was during the weekend. I wasn't allowed to call you in the middle of the week. I wasn't allowed to talk to you in the middle of the week. I wasn't allowed to come see you in the middle of the week. When I did try, she would threaten to call the cops because I was on her property in the middle of her country house. I wasn't allowed to. I was forced to stay away. My only allowance was to pick you up on Saturday and bring you back on Sunday. I got to see you 48 days a year. Do the math. A little extra with the extra time on Christmas and the extra months that have an extra weekend. But do the math. 2 days every 2 weeks is 4 days every month, sometimes more when you have the additional week. But that's 48 days a month. 48 days a year. Sorry about that. Could you imagine parents only being able to see your child 4 days every month? That's it. To not be able to call them, to not be able to talk to them, to not be able to come see them in the middle of the week. You can't even call them without being yelled at. Could you imagine, as a parent, suffering that loss and only seeing your child 48 days a year? Yeah. I suffer now because my child hates me and doesn't even want to see me. A minute and 6 seconds in, He hates me, y'all. Part 2. Okay, we are part 2, 2 minutes into the video, almost to part 3. But where's the proof? I've watched these videos. I had my friends, I had my mom, I had my girlfriend, I had everybody watch these videos. They know the relationship that I had with my child. They know the stuff that I went through with Tristan. They know how me and Gwen interacted. They know that none of these accusations come with any evidence, no truth, no facts. I never hurt Gwen and I never hurt Tristan ever. Not once. Not even a little bit. What did I do? Timeout right there. Timeout. Focus on what he just said. At the time of Gwen's death and Tristan's accident, he was involved in the accident. His mother passed, she didn't. At the time of her passing, we were living in a 2-bedroom, very expensive duplex. I was paying $750 a month for that duplex. I was working very hard. Her mother had new clothes. He had new clothes. We had everything we needed. I was at work from morning to evening almost every day. I was barely ever home. When I was home, it was on the weekends. I was working sundown to sunset. Sorry, sunset, whatever. Yeah, sun up, whatever. Sun up to sundown. Sorry. And I was hardly ever home. But when I was, on my days off, we watched movies, we went to the park, we played games, we went to McDonald's. I was finally able to get her that computer she wanted. Tristan had new toys, new clothes. My lifestyle was work. Like every man on the planet, we are chained to our desk. We are required to work, and that work provided the lifestyle that we had. So, my son is 16 at the time of this video. Are you honestly going to sit there and tell me that a 16-year-old boy knows anything about what a lifestyle even is? Can you honestly say that a 16-year-old saying what he's just said, can you honestly for 1 minute even argue that he's not being coached? Because everything I just heard in that last sentence sounds like Rebecca McReynolds coaching and puppeting him to say these things. And to say that my lifestyle was not conducive to raising my child. Even if I had to work, even if it was more appropriate for him to be at his grandmother's until I had the ability to give him more time, doesn't mean he had to be taken away from me. Even if I hired a babysitter and I could have afforded it, or if I hired a nanny, I could have afforded it. I had plenty of money every month to buy her what she needed, what Tristan he needed, to buy what we needed, to have food on the table, to have food in the fridge, to have the bills paid, to have the gas in her car, gas in my car, both insurance paid, every bill was paid, and I still had money left over. My lifestyle went from Pizza Hut to having money in my pocket, and Gwen had money in her pocket from my paycheck, and Tristan and Gwen had everything they needed. My lifestyle was not bad. Not because what I did, but because Gwen told her mom that we had an argument, and the police showed up. And every time, not once did they find a scar on her, not once did they ever find a scar on my son, not once did they ever find a scar on me. We had a verbal argument. She would always get upset and call her mommy to involve her, and her mommy would be worried and call the cops. And as I said in the post, the cops would always show up. They would never stop coming. Gwen's mom would never stop calling. Gwen's mom was very territorial with her daughter. All she wanted was her daughter back. And Gwen made every effort to make her mom happy, because the entire distance from beginning to end of our relationship, Gwen would always pack her shit and leave me for a whopping 14 days a month. I wasn't allowed to know who she was talking to. I wasn't allowed to talk to her. She wouldn't call me. If I texted her, she wouldn't respond. If I called her, she wouldn't answer. If I called her mom, she wouldn't put me on the phone with Gwen. After so long of her doing it, I became numb to it. When she came back, I wasn't allowed to ask what she was doing, what was said about me, who she was hanging out with, what she was doing, why she wouldn't talk to me. And if I ever brought it up and even mentioned why she was gone as long as she was, or who she hung out with, if I mentioned what she did, if I even brought up the fact that she was gone, Gwen would get so mad. She would grab a book, go in the bathroom, lock the door, read her book for 2.5 hours, come out, be perfectly happy, and I wasn't allowed to say another word about her trip. Sometimes I did. Guess what? She'd do the same thing. She'd throw a temper tantrum, go in the bathroom, read her book, come out. After a while, I became numb to it. I knew after a while I wasn't allowed to talk to her about her trip. I wasn't allowed to talk to her about the fact that she was gone for half of our entire relationship. Half of every month she was always gone. I wasn't allowed to even know. For all I know, she was with another man. But I loved her regardless. I put up with a lot. I wasn't abusive, never was, never have been, and nobody can prove otherwise. Okay. Son, and anybody watching this, I need you to understand something very importantly. The cops don't care about the man. Let me make that clear. When there's a domestic violence case and they show up, let me rephrase that. When there is a accusation of a domestic violence dispute, the only person, the courts, custody, lawyers, everybody on the planet Earth, the only person the cops ever care about is the safety of the woman. I promise you the officers never cared about my well-being. The only safety the officers ever focused on was Gwen's. I want everybody who's watching this to make that clear. I want everybody to understand. Sorry, this is frustrating, so I'm stressing out. I want everybody to understand that the officers don't care about the man's safety. When they show up, the only safety they care about is the woman's. So Tristan and anybody watching this, know this. They didn't care about my safety. They only cared about your safety and your mother's. They didn't say I was okay. Those were the words that never came out of their mouth. In fact, the only officer that ever spoke to me was the one who finally realized how full of shit your grandma was after the 100 times that she called the cops on me, and 100 times they had no reason to be there. He was the only one who gave two shits. I wish I could remember his name. I remember the kindness the officer showed me. I can't remember the first name or the last name. All I can tell you is the officers do not care about the man's safety. All they cared about every time they showed up was your safety, Tristan, and your mother's. And not once in the 100,000+ times that your grandma called the cops on me for abusing your mom, allegedly, not once did they find a mark, a scratch, a bite, a bruise of any kind on your mother, on you, or on me. Couples argue. I argue with my girlfriend over stupid things. But you know what? They're arguments. Quite frankly, 90% of the arguments I've ever had with a woman is utterly stupid arguments. But it's never abuse. It's never degrading. It's never abuse. It's never assault. It's never aggravated. It's never planned. It's never, ever, ever went from verbal to assault in my entire life. I'm very proud to say I have never laid my hands in a harmful way, in any tone of any way, to a woman. I'm proud of that. I've never been harmful to a woman. I have been scratched, bitten, shot with a BB gun. I've been ran over. I've been stabbed. I have been punched, kicked, bit, had a knee on my spine. Women get angry and women get violent. But not once have I ever harmed you, your mom, or any woman on planet Earth. I want you to know how harmful it is for you to go on the internet and tell everyone that your father abused you as a young age and your mother. Do you not understand the clarification of how big of a deal that is? Do you not think for 1 minute how psychologically painful it is to accuse your father of things he never did? Would you want a woman or a parent? Let's just put it as a woman. Let's say you grow up, you're in your 18s, 20s, 30s. How would you feel, son, if a woman came up to you and accused you of doing something you never did? Okay? Now, do you realize in a society that we live in, the amount of punishment that could be dealt in your court by just an accusation alone, by just a mere accusation? It could ruin your life forever. And I haven't stopped thinking about this. In fact, it really affects me on a deep level, because I've called Dodge City Police Department, I've called Kingman Police Department, I called the Meade, Kansas Police Department, I called all those police departments and asked for notes on all of those calls. I think, if I'm right, if I can remember right, they call them CAD calls or whatever. I don't know if it's CAD calls, but I know it's a welfare check. Every single time that the officers are called on these situations, they are required by law to show up and do a welfare check. And a welfare check is not a small ordeal. They literally have to separate one party from the other, and whoever is accused of violence, they're taken outside, and the person that is allegedly the victim is inspected and interviewed and questioned and asked a material of questions to define safety for that person. And if at any point in time the officer or the interviewer or anybody that goes on these calls even catches a hint of fear, of pain, of bruises, of violence of any kind, they will go above and beyond to make damn sure that the guilty party goes to jail. And 9 times out of 10, I've heard from officers, the way it is now, most of the time, they don't care who's at fault in DV cases. In the way the officers have mentioned it today, when I spoke to a few officers, they said when there's 2 people involved, 9 times out of 10, somebody has to go to jail on a DV call. There is no innocent, there is no guilty. If not one person goes to jail, they will both go to jail. If they're both at fault, they will both go to jail. If there's one victim and one whatever, somebody has to go to jail. That's what the officers told me today. And every day that I've asked the same questions. So I want you to understand something, son. When you came on the internet to tell everyone that I was crying, that I was begging for empathy, that I was begging for sympathy, that I was whatever, I want you to understand that whether you care or not how I feel, I want you to understand that your accusations, none of them have any truth, yet everything you said hit me like a million needles stabbing me in the back. Nothing you've said in any of your videos, not one thing that you've said in any of these videos that you posted have any weight. You have no evidence. There's no truth behind it. Yet you said it because what you're going to hear, everybody, is he's about to defend his grandma. I think maybe he already did. I'm not sure. But he said that he's saying that I said that it's his grandmother's fault, which is true. But he's going on to say that it's not his grandmother's fault, it's my fault. But son, I need you to understand how much of an impact you have on the person that helped create life for you. Like, I am your father. And to say that to me when I've done nothing. And I begged those officers. I begged Dodge City Police Department. I begged, we didn't live in Pratt. I begged Dodge City Police Department. I begged Meade, Kansas Police Department. I begged Kingman, Kansas Police Department for notes, for welfare check notes, for anything, any documented paperwork, anything about all those CAD calls, any notes whatsoever. And they all tell me the same thing. They don't see any possible way of doing it. Most of the time they don't leave notes, they just do a welfare check. And I call bullshit. Someone calls 911 or threatens or states that there's violence, somebody's going to write something down somewhere. And I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to stop trying to get notes. I'm not going to stop trying to find something that proves my innocence. But how... You know, I hear from everybody saying, Joshua, you have nothing to prove to him. You have nothing to prove to anybody. We know you're a good person. But to see some of the comments that people are posting on his videos, there's Gwen's best friend, Amanda. I believe that's her name. It's been so long. I asked her to message me and to say something to Tristan and to prove that I was never abusive to Gwen. Yeah, we had our arguments, but I was never abusive. Every couple has an argument. Every relationship goes through some form of stress. And all her best friend keeps saying is, that's between God and me, and I won't tell Tristan until he's ready. And I said, well, will you talk to me? And she won't. But to accuse someone of something they never done, son, it's... And I'm not just somebody, son. I'm your father. We share DNA. We are related. I am your father. I've never hurt you, ever. I need you to understand that. I need you to look at me and understand that I have never harmed you in any way, and I can't stop baffling my brain with all this insanity of how crazy it is that all these people think I'm just a terrible human being, and you're posting this stuff all over the internet. And people, I need you to understand, as this video progresses, he keeps talking about all this proof and all this evidence, but not once does he show any evidence. And he doesn't speak any evidence. Now, he's about to say the one thing that I have not mentioned, and I'm going to save. I was going to write in part 1, but I'm going to dive deep into it in part 2. But I'm going to say it real quickly. I was working at the time of this, what he's about to say. I was working at Dodge City G&G. I was a detailer. I would take the dirtiest, nastiest cars, vacuum, clean them, sweep them, shampoo the carpet, shampoo the seats, wash the dash, wash the windows, clean the tires, everything. Make it look spotless as possible so they could sell it. This was after she sent the second photo. I was diving into this, but I kind of forgot to mention it. I came home after this family photo incident where they wrote, "Yours dead to us is a deadbeat dad," as your deadbeat dad, because her dad was in jail for molesting her older sister Maggie, and her mother believes to this day that he molested Gwen also. So I came home and Tristan was bawling his eyes out. Like, he was screaming. Like, bloody horror scream. I was like, where the hell is Gwen? She was in the bathroom. I didn't know it. I was searching all over the house. The door was locked. I kicked the door open. When I walked in, she had a photo of me, her, and Tristan. And in the tub was bloody water, blood on the walls, blood dripping out of her wrist. She had taken my razor again in the new home that we just got, and she was scratching her wrist with the little razor blades out of my Mach 3 razor. I didn't know what to do. I was terrified. I was horrified. I've seen a lot of horror movies. Blood doesn't bother me. Pain and disgusting graphic things don't bother me. But when my wife is cutting her wrist because her own mother sent her our family picture back, writing, "You're as dead to us, Gwen, as your deadbeat dad." Her mother drove her to attempt multiple times, cutting her wrist, her boobs, her chest, her body in multiple places. Her mother, Tristan's grandma, drove her to this. So what did I do? I was freaking the fuck out. I quickly called 911, told them she was cutting herself. I told them to get over here quick. She's bleeding all over the place. I'm worried. I put the phone down. I grabbed the towel. I tried to get the razor blade out of her hand. She wouldn't stop cutting. I grabbed her wrist with one hand. I slapped her hand and the razor blade came out because she was just over and over and it was freaking me out. So I grabbed her hand with this hand. I tried to get the razor blade out of her hand. I didn't care if it was going to cut my fingers. I just tried to get it out of her hand. Then I slapped her hand. The razor blade fell down. I went and grabbed a towel. I wrapped it around her wrist tightly. I picked her up abruptly. I was freaking out. My wife was bleeding terribly. I wrapped a towel around her. I picked her up, got her out of the tub, put her on the bed, grabbed a robe, put it around her, and while the police and ambulance were on the way, I grabbed my son, picked him up, brought him over to her, and I sat next to her. Then I heard knocking. But it wasn't the front door. Gwen, as I got up to go to the door, the knocking stopped. I made it to the door. There was no one there. When I came back to the living room, into our bedroom, Gwen was gone, and me and Tristan was calm because every time I picked up Tristan, he immediately calmed down. Every time Gwen picked him up, he immediately calmed down. There's always been a connection between me and Tristan and Gwen. Tristan was very well connected with his mom and his dad, me. But I couldn't find Gwen. I didn't know where she was. Out of nowhere, I heard voices coming from the closet. I opened the door, and she's on the phone with her mom. And I'm like, "Why are you hiding in there? You're bleeding. Come here." So I held the towel after I got her out of there. She said I freaked her out when I picked her up and got her out of the tub. She said I did it too violently and it scared her. Well, I was scared. I didn't know what to do. And guess what? You got it. Her mom called the cops. After I already called the cops. After I already called 911, her mother called the cops again. The ambulance showed up first. They cleaned her up. The officers walked in next. They pulled me outside. After the ambulance did their thing, patching her up, I told them the whole thing. I said, she scared the shit out of me. I felt like I walked into a horror movie. My son was screaming bloody murder. She was locked in the bathroom cutting her wrist. I just got home. I don't know what to do. All I know is she was bleeding to death and I was scared and I tried to protect my wife from dying. Yeah. I reacted, but I wasn't violent. Again, I was at work. I wasn't treating your mom anyway. Your grandma that you clutch onto, son, sent your mother a photo of you, me, and your mother and told her that she is as dead to her as her deadbeat dad, your grandma's husband. Your grandma's husband that molested her daughter and your mom. Okay, there it is. It's my belief that none of these videos was intended to scar my name. I think these videos had Rebecca puppeting him, telling him to stick up for her, to make her look good. Okay. By him saying that she moved out a bunch, that's a true statement. She did move out a bunch. She really did move out a bunch. It was not because she was breaking up with me. It was not because she didn't want to be with me. It was not because she was leaving, period. Yeah, she left. Yeah, she packed her shit and left. But your mother told me, my son's mother told me, that every time she left, she was not, and it took a long time for her to tell me this, but I got to a point where I couldn't handle it no more. I said, you have got to start talking to me about what you're doing and who you're doing, what you're doing when you're gone, and we need to talk about it. Communication is key. I can only play so much video games and movies to make myself happy while you're gone, but nothing makes me happy when you're gone. When my son is taken away from me because you're trying to, I don't know what you're doing, but I miss you. I miss my son when you're gone, and it's hard on me. And after a bunch of little debates and conversations about me sharing my feelings like that with her, she finally came out and told me that she was doing what she was doing to leave me. Not because she wanted to leave me, but because when she was with her mom, she was trying to let her mom know that she still loves her. And your grandma told her in front of me and in letters that I read that Gwen shared with me, your grandmother multiple times, on multiple occasions, told your mom that she needs to choose me or her. Your grandma made your mother choose multiple times between her living with your grandma or her living with me. But if she chose me, your grandma, not your mom, your grandma was going to Never talk to her again. I want you to understand something, son. That when somebody makes someone choose between one person and another, they don't love you. Your grandma doesn't even know what love is. Your grandma doesn't even know anything about love. Because your grandma is one of the key factors that drove your mother to harm herself multiple times. Your grandma didn't love your mom. Your grandma don't love you. Your grandma don't even know what love is. One thing Jamie said to me today, my girlfriend said to me today, is I don't understand how a grandma that says she loves her grandchild can sit here and not allow her grandchild's father to see him whenever he wants to see him. Even if I was not in the right place to provide or be there for you on a daily basis. Gwen was not loved by your mom. You are not being loved by your grandma. She is pushing you away from your father. Now, at the beginning of your videos, you said you always wanted a father. But son, you have always had your father. The problem isn't me not being there. The problem is me not being allowed to be there. Do you know how many times I called your grandma and said, can I come by and give Tristan a hug? I bought him a toy. Can I take him out for ice cream? Can I stop by just to see him? Can I come out and, take him for a drive? Can we sit outside of your house and just hang out? Can he come over? Can he come over for dinner? Can I take him to the movies? Can I take him to a fair? If it's not my weekend, your grandma would not allow me to have you. Your grandma would not allow me to see you when it wasn't my weekend. I was only allowed to see you upwards of 48 days a year. If you add in the extra holiday days, maybe 50. Son, when you're a parent, if your child is taken away from you, it's like losing your heart. It's like breathing with no lungs. It's very painful. Everybody, I need you to understand what he just said. Again, he's 16 years old. Where's he getting all this information? I plan on doing some interviews with people that know Tristan, People that know me, people that seen me interact with with Tristan, my mom, my girlfriend seen him, my family, they know. He knows. But he's being coached. No matter how many times he wants to deny it, these things he's saying is a load of mush. But I'm going to tell you why, when Gwen died, why I was not fit at the time to have my son and Tristan. This is why I did not have you. Look, the day... Okay. On January 28th of 2007, I came home from work, and your mom did a romantic thing. She cooked dinner, she made, candlelight, she did all sorts of things. I worked from sun up to sundown. I left home at 7 a.m. That day I worked overtime, and I got home at around 11 p.m. It was late. You were in bed. It was really late, and I was dead dog tired. Keep in mind, I left work at 7 a.m. I worked overtime. I didn't come home until 11 p.m. I was so tired that I almost fell asleep at the wheel on the way home. But you know what? I had to work hard to make you have the life that we had. Your mom was happier. You were happy. You had both of us. We had everything we needed. So when I came home that night, your mother wanted to do a romantic dinner and a movie. Now keep in mind, as I told you, I was falling asleep at the wheel. Almost died making it home multiple times. It wasn't a short trip. It was like 10 miles between where my work was and where the home. 10 miles ain't shit, I know. But it's very long when you're tired. I was tired. So when Gwen made it clear that we weren't just going to have dinner, we were going to watch a movie. Now, son, the older you get, you're going to learn that when a woman wants something, she's going to do everything in her power to make sure it's got. She's going to make damn sure that she gets what she wants when she wants it. And your mother was very good at that. If she didn't get her way, she was not happy. She did everything she could to fight for what she wanted, and she usually, 90% of the time, won that argument. But that night I made it clear that I was afraid, knowing her very clearly, I know how she was going to react if I fell asleep during that movie. I said, can we please watch this movie tomorrow? And I fought it for like 20 minutes. Tried to tell her, look, there's no way I can watch this movie. There's no way. Can we eat, go to sleep? I'm exhausted. Well, I'll watch the movie with you all weekend. It didn't work. She won. I told her, please don't be mad if I do fall asleep. I'll do my best not to fall asleep. Guess what? I ended up falling asleep. She didn't like it. She made me go to bed without her. She stayed up. I tried to get her to come to bed multiple times. She elbowed me and said, I don't want to look at you. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to touch you. I don't want to hear you. So I tried to hug her again and said, I'm sorry. She wouldn't have it. She wouldn't let me touch her. So I said, I love you. Good night. I went to bed. The next morning, You were gone. She was gone. Everything we owned was gone. I was that tired that I literally slept through your grandma and grandpa, whoever was there, I don't know who, had packed up literally all your stuff, her stuff, and most of the stuff that I bought for both of us was gone. With a note stabbed through the door that read, if I can quote this correctly, I love you more. It's been a long time since I read that letter. She said, and I quote, I love you more as a friend than a husband. I spent all day cooking, cleaning, going to Wichita, buying this dress or this lingerie that I made, I'm wearing. Went to the store, bought all the groceries, cooked, cleaned the house, took care of our son all day. All I wanted to do was watch a movie, and you couldn't even do that. I'm never going to choose you over my family. I'll always love you. Goodbye, Guinevere. Now, first of all, the last couple sentences bothered me. I made it multiple times clear to her, multiple times, that if she didn't want to be with me, she could go. If she wanted to be with me, she'd always have welcome arms to be with me. I wasn't forcing her to be there. I did beg her to be there. I did love her. I did love you. I never wanted to lose her. But she wasn't, my saying that was not saying I didn't want to be with her. My saying that was because I was tired of, I was tired of all the times that she was leaving. But I never gave up on her. I never stopped loving her, never stopped caring. So when I woke up, I was brokenhearted, but I went to work. I tried to call her, nothing. So for the next 2 weeks, I tried to call her every day, nothing. Tried to write her a letter, never got a response. I texted her, no response. On February 14th, it was roughly the 13th, I ordered an FTD package. There was a stuffed teddy bear for you. It was a big one of the biggest ones they had, for you, and 2 dozen roses for your mom, and send them to your grandma's house. On February 15th, on February 15th, your mom called me and said, thank you, but unfortunately, I'm not able to keep them. And all I can say right now, because my mom is standing here, is I'm sorry. And I said, sorry for what? And she said, I can't tell you, and hung up. So the very next day, not only did UPS show up with a package of the ashes from a fire where your grandpa burned the roses that I sent her and this giant stuffed teddy bear, and they apparently shoveled it into a trash bag within a trash bag within a trash bag over and over, just bag. I had to rip open all these bags with a note on the very middle bag that said, I love you, but I love you, but I'm never choosing you over my family, and I'm sorry, but my grandpa will not let me keep these. I'm not coming home. But not only that, but about an hour later, the sheriff showed up with divorce, with custody, with a restraining order. Your mother, it's my belief that your grandmother urged her and pushed her to do it. But your mother filed divorce papers against me. Now, Whether you know it or not, you're going to find out in society the way men are treated in courts and how I was treated by Judge Mackie Dick. You're going to learn someday that men do not have a fair, equal right to custody as mothers do. And I knew that long before the custody even took place. So, on February 16th of 2007, after receiving those papers, I called in sick to work that morning, didn't show up to work, grabbed a knife. Keep in mind what I'm about to tell you. I've never cut myself ever before. I've been cut. I may have accidentally cut myself with scissors, but I never literally cut myself before this. I took a knife after I wrote a MySpace blog saying, "Please tell my mom I'm sorry, but I can't live my life without my wife and my child. I love my son, I love my mom, I love my wife, but knowing that I can't have my wife and my child in my life, I don't want to live anymore." So I took a knife and I cut a box out of my skin. Then when I got to this layer of skin underneath that, I barely poked it. And I couldn't continue. It was so sensitive, I couldn't continue. I began patching my wrist. But by then, it was too late. One of my followers that was based out of Texas called the sheriff in Dodge City and told them what they read. And the sheriff beat the door down. And I was bandaging myself. Didn't have a knife in my hand. I had a bandage on my wrist. And they told me they read the post and they said they have no choice. They had to take me to Larned State Hospital in Larned, Kansas for attempted suicide. That was February 16th. Your mother and you that I miss so much. I miss your mother and I miss spending time with you, son. But your mother and you were involved in an accident on Saturday, February 17th, while I was in the hospital for attempted suicide. Now, I don't understand this law. I don't understand the courts. Because I've seen thousands of mothers who have attempted suicide, done harm to one of their children, still gained custody of the remaining children, done harsh things to kids and still got custody, hurt themselves and still got custody. But according to what the judge told me, that because at the time of her death, my residence at the time of her death was in Larned State Hospital for attempted suicide, due to the divorce papers that I was reading and all the negative, harsh words that was used in there by your mom and your grandmother's statements, that was false and was proven false because no charges were ever made. I wanted to end myself. So at the time of her passing, I was in the hospital and they said that because at the time of her death, I was in the hospital, you had to go somewhere. I don't know why it had to be her mom, but whatever. I don't know why my mom couldn't have had an opportunity, but yeah. So, it was not because of my lifestyle. It was not because of the way I was living. It was not because I hurt your mom. And it was not because I hurt you. It was because I hurt myself when nobody was around, and I made a post wanting to end myself because I didn't have you, and I didn't have your mom. Okay. I would love to hear, son, exactly why it never went well. In all these videos, you complained that I was late. In all these videos, you said my visitations were taken away. But there was very rare instances where my being late was the thing. There was very rare instances that my visitation was taken away. Oh my God. Alright, I want you to hear what he just said. Because these words are going to come into light in one of his other videos. He says that he's very disappointed in me, or he's disappointed because of visitation issues. Sorry, y'all, I'm tired. It's really late. But anywho, I want you to understand the concept of this. I was living on my own. I was working 80 hours a week. I was working my ass off. This is after Gwen died, after my son was taken from me, after I was broken and scarred from all the pain of losing my wife and my child away from me. I was working my ass off. There were times where my truck broke down. There were times when after the bills were paid, child support was paid, electric was paid, cell phone was paid, truck was filled up with gas, all that. There was times where by the time my visitation came around, I was traveling to and from work. By the time my visitation come out, I had to borrow money from my mom sometimes. I had to borrow money from other people in order to have gas to get out to see you. I didn't have very many people willing to help me. And a lot of times your grandma, my mom, couldn't help me. A lot of times I was making so much effort into my job that I was barely sleeping. I was putting in overtime just so I could have a little extra money at the end of the pay period in order to have gas to go visit you. Then I had times where my truck broke down. I had to get it fixed. I didn't have the money for that. You know, it's not as simple as saying that I was late. It's not as simple as saying that I'm a disappointment because I had a few visitations taken away because I was late. It's not simple as that. I'm not rich. I'm not wealthy. And those times that I woke up late, those are the days that I was working till 2, 3 in the morning of overtime to have extra money by the time it was time to come see you. I didn't get much sleep. There was times where I overslept the alarm. And again, I'm not making excuses. I was late. It's my fault. It's nobody else's fault that I was late. It's my fault that I stayed at work so late. It's my fault that I was working so hard to see you. It's my fault that I overslept the alarm, but it's my fault that I wanted to see my son so bad that I was willing to lose sleep, make extra money, so I didn't have to borrow money from my family and friends just to come see you. And when my truck broke down, it was very rare that it happened, but when it did, your grandma would not meet me halfway. She would not come to me. She would not bring you to me. I was required to drive the 80-mile trip from where I was to you to pick you up. That's 160 miles round trip. In a Dodge Ram 1500 2003 V, I think it was 4.7 liter. Gas mileage is not great. That's 320 miles round trip. There to pick you up, take you back. Take you back there, then I gotta drive home. 320 miles in a truck that doesn't have good gas mileage, and I was working extra hours just to have gas money to come see you. So to say I was late all the time is false. To say that I wasn't ever there, false. To say I was a bad father, false. I will never claim to be the best father, a good father, because a good father doesn't have his child taken away from him. So you right. I punish myself more than you're punishing me now. I am mad at myself for ever cutting myself, for ever doing everything I could to do the right thing. I tried. And I'm proud of myself. But I'm also disappointed because I don't have you. But I need you to understand, I am not a bad father. I'm not going to claim to be a good or a great father. But I will tell you, I did the best I could with what I had. I was doing all the work and all the effort and doing all the work that I could just to be a part of your life. Okay, right there. Right there. That is not a 16-year-old boy talking. He's being coached. His grandma is puppeting these words into his brain. I was not selfish by any means. I put him and his mother above and beyond me all the time. What? Okay. 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 20 to 25 girls. That's a bit excessive. Since Gwen died, I've been with a very small handful of girls. Very small. What? $25? Not even close. Not even 10. In my lifetime, I've had 20 to 25 girls under my belt. But about 15 of those were long before I even met Tristan's mom. What, is he giving women dating advice? Sorry, y'all, I'm tired. I wasn't allowed to be there when it wasn't my visitation. Not because I didn't make the effort, but because your grandma would not allow me to be there. I don't know. Again, where's the evidence of any abuse, of the fact that I was allegedly sleeping in my truck, the fact that I was allegedly homeless? Where's the evidence, people? Now he's not going to share it. Alright, y'all. Right there. Right there. I gotta put a stop to it right here. Let me tell you what he's upset about. Okay? He's about to tell you a little bit of it, but he's not gonna tell you all of it. One thing he doesn't mention is he told me his grandfather died. And I said, good. I told him I wish him no happiness beyond death. There's a reason why I hated this man. There was reasons why this person disgusts me. He molested Gwen's older sister Maggie, and everyone in her family believes that he molested Gwen. Not only that, but let me be clear to everyone something that Tristan has denied and been very shy about when my mother and me have talked to him about this. But there's a big shift in changes in my son's behavior from the time that Richard was in jail to the time that Richard McReynolds got out of jail to the time that Richard Pearl McReynolds came into the house where my son lived, to the fact that I went to the court and said I do not want a convicted child molester living with my son, and Judge Maggie Diggs said I have no say-so in where he lives. Now, my mother will agree, everyone I know will agree, Tristan's behavior changed exponentially. Let me say something. I'm not gonna tell the world what happened for the sake of my son's future. But not long after Richard Pearl McReynolds came into the home, my son did something that was exponentially against the law. He did things he should have never done with a person he should have never done with, of a sexual nature. But I'm not going to say who, I'm not going to say why, I'm not going to say what was done. All I'm going to say is all this took place not long at all after Richard Pearl McReynolds got out of jail and lived in the same house as my son. My son's future from that day forward was not good in any way, shape, or fashion. So when he died, I was happy. Tristan did not like my reaction. That pissed him off. Not only that, but Tristan came out to me and told me that he loved a woman that was transitioning into a man, and he loved that man. I told him I never said that he's a disappointment. I never said that he is a disappointment. I never said that. I said I'm disappointed in his decisions, his choices, what he's planning on doing with somebody he's never met on the internet. Whether they video chatted or not. This person lived in Australia. Doesn't live in America. Doesn't live across the planet. Across the country. Lived in Australia. For all you know, that person could be a 50-year-old man, fat as hell, not a girl, not a dude, just some old whatever. Told him I wasn't happy with his decisions. Did I react inappropriately? I don't think so. He thinks so, but I don't think so. Was it a bad way to handle the way my son came out? Probably. But I could tell you, I never thought I'd ever be involved in that discussion nor was I prepared for it. So did I react inappropriately? I'll admit it. Was it logical? Probably not. Was it respectful? Probably not. But it doesn't make me a bad person. It does make me a bad father. But to him, in the eyes of Tristan, obviously he hates me because I didn't handle the way he came out. And I believe he's doing all this not only to make me look bad, but to also make Rebecca look good. Okay. I always care how my son feels. I do. I love my son. But I'm not able to tell you the things my son did or the fear of what was done to him. I'm not able to tell you. But I think you get the idea. No. Okay, that once again is a false statement. I never said anything of the nature. What I asked him on multiple occasions was, would you ever, if you were given the choice, would you come live with me once I get everything ready? Like, once I have a bed for you, once I have a house, everything's good. And all the years of asking him that, he never really had an answer. He just kept saying, I don't know, maybe, probably. And then when he was older, his exact answer was, all my friends are here. And I said, son, you can make more friends. Not only that, but your friends are only 20 miles, 30 miles from Pratt. If you come live with me, I have a vehicle. We can invite them to the park. We can invite them, or I can take you over to their house for a day. I could make it possible for you to spend time with your friends. And he goes, my whole life and all my friends are here. I said, so are you saying you don't want to come live with your dad? And he said, I'm not leaving my friends. And so I was hurt by that. Okay, let me be clear. He's 16 years old. Okay? He don't even know this person. He's never met this person. This person lives across the globe in Australia. It's a woman transforming into a dude. Now, be you, do what you gotta do whatever you want, be you. I'll respect it. Make your choices, that's you. My son, at the time of this video, is 16. He doesn't even know what love is. Not in a relationship sense. Apparently, he doesn't know how to love a parent or the love between a parent and a child. That's the end, y'all. I'd love to hear some reactions. Comment below. Hit that subscribe. But before you go judging on me and hating on me, know this. That's my son. I fought for 15 years just to have more time with him. Just to show him that I love him. And to be accused of something that I never did. To be accused of hurting him and hurting his mother, which is something I would never do, never have done, never will do. It's painful. But we'll end it there. Everybody, please try to understand from a man's perspective that it's hard to be accused of something that you've never done.